Hello, everyone. I think we can start. I think we have a pretty full room. I'm very, very happy to welcome you to today's event on teaching for climate action. My name is Alexander Leicht. I'm the Chief of Section of Education for Sustainable Development at UNESCO. And I'm very happy to moderate this session today on behalf of the three organizers, which are OECD, Education International, and UNESCO. We together started this initiative a while ago on teaching for climate action, collecting global teaching insights from teachers across the world on the importance of climate education and how to best go about on climate education so that every student is really empowered to address climate change. And that will be the focus also of today's conversation. Before we go into the conversation, I just wanted to mention the website that we have set up, the Global Teaching Insight website, and I'd like to encourage all of you to check out that website, where you can find many good examples that have been sent in by teachers on climate education. And if you're a teacher and listening and joining this webinar today, and you haven't sent in your good practices yet, then we invite you very much to send them in to us so that they can be uploaded at the platform. We have a wonderful panel for today, which I will invite to speak in a moment. But we also want to make sure that the audience has the possibility to participate. And because we're a big group, we thought that the best thing to do this would be to use the online tool Slido. And I will briefly introduce it so that you're sure how to use it. It will help you to basically raise your questions to the panelists. So basically, what I invite you to do is to take your computer or your mobile phone, and you type slido.com. You can see also on the screen here the instructions. So you type slido.com, and then you will see an event code, and you put in 940397. And with this Q&A function, you will be able to type your questions, and then also to vote up questions that other participants asked, because maybe a question that you would want to ask has been put into the tool already, and you can just vote it up. And then at the end of the session, we will have a chance to pick some of the questions that have been made through the tool here and ask them to the panelists. Yeah, I just wanted to briefly in the beginning introduce this tool, but much more importantly, I'd like to introduce the panelists that we brought together today. And here we have first Kavita Sangvi, a teacher and principal at the primary and secondary school with over 3,000 students in Mumbai, India. Very happy to have you here. Guillaume Chevalier, a secondary teacher at a French-German school in Freiburg, Germany, and the founder of 10 at 10 for the Planet that we will talk about later as well. Josephine Udonsi, a secondary school biology teacher from Nigeria. She's a member of UNESCO's Associated School Network and part of the Getting Climate Ready project that the schools network has been running. And I'm also very happy to have Mathilde Tricoire, an education officer at the Office for Climate Education, where she writes resources for teachers. The Office for Climate Education is a UNESCO associated center here in France, really fully dedicated to supporting stakeholders and in particular teachers on how to go about when doing climate education. So thank you very much to all of our great panelists for joining us. The first round of questions that I would like to focus on is really on the question of empowerment that we really think is at the heart of climate education. How can we teach as teachers? How can we design schools so that students really go away empowered for climate action? And before I ask the panelists, I would like to invite all the audience to go to our slido.com tool and briefly respond to the question, to my main question that I have for the first round of the panel: what does climate empowerment mean to you? So I invite you to just take a few moments. We will give a few moments to everyone to go to the Slido tool, type in the event code 940 397, and then give in the word that you associated with empowerment. Let's just wait for a moment until the few responses come in. Okay, I think there was a problem with the mute button, as I think you have guessed, but at least that gave you the time to put in a few more entries. So I think I hope that was interesting enough. So I think we can see here action. I think resonated with many people, and then also knowledge, agency, hope, justice, and then the rest of the terms. Really a very wide variety, and I think it really shows also the diversity of associations that people have when they talk about empowerment. And I think precisely these kinds of associations, ideas, but also practices, we will be able to discuss with our great panel. And I'd like to ask Kavita first from India, empowering students. What does it really mean to you? You had sent in a great video that we are showing on the platform that really addresses the school curriculum. You have integrated the SDGs into the school curriculum through a lot of action with students, and really managed then also to systemically in the curriculum integrate sustainability and specifically the SDGs. So on the basis of this experience and your other work, Kavita, what does empowerment mean to you, and how did you empower students through your activities? So the floor is yours. I think, Kavita, we can't hear you. While maybe I think we can't hear you. I will come back to you. Okay, just in the interest of time, let me come back to you, and let me move on to Josephine, who has been running the Green Issues Initiative, where she raised student awareness about global warming and environmental issues together with NGOs and governments. And I'd like to, while we are sorting out sort of the sound problems of Kavita, I'd like to Josephine, I'd like to give you the floor to talk about empowerment and to see what empowerment means to you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Josephine, we can hear you. So I'm gonna take you first, right? Well, because I think we had a problem with the unmuting of Kavita, but I think my colleagues in the background are working on it. So Josephine, you also ran a great initiative in your school, and I'm very curious to hear sort of what does empowerment of students mean to you, and how did you get students empowered through this initiative?
Okay, empowerment is to us is the transfer of knowledge, from a formal way, then using traditional, non-formal method to, teach our children so that they can tackle life challenges socially, economically, and politically. It is also making our students aware of their environment by building their confidence and giving them a voice to address issues in their communities and global space. By working together, we share our interests to improve our communities. The Green Issues is an initiative where children expresses themselves based on the knowledge that they have gained, and it empowers them. Thank you.
That's great, Josephine. Thanks a lot for the insights. And then what kind of sort of more like when you look at more the pedagogical approaches that you used, to achieve this empowerment, can you describe a little bit the pedagogical approaches that you used?
Okay, one of them, most of our pedagogies are student-centered. And so one of them is the use of experiential learning. This is learning by doing, where the children, experience the activities by, experimentation, maybe take them out on excursions. And also, for instance, teaching a student how to plant a tree, exposes them to an experience where they try to discuss, where they try to reflect on these experiences and they try to act on it. Like on one occasion when I took them out for excursions, they were able to interact with local people and they gained information from them. And at the end of the day, they were able to act on those information. Then the second way is, I term it place-based learning, where the learner is made aware of their culture and history and their local community, whereby the knowledge is incorporated onto them, that is the local knowledge. And also it gives them an opportunity to learn about their culture and also to express themselves, and it gives them voice and to make choices. So learning from local people is a wonderful experience. It's different from the formal setting. Here they can ask people that have not gone through formal learning questions. They visit to a nursery village where they were able to reach out to people and ask them questions. This is part of the place-based learning. Then the collaborative learning. We know that one of the 21st century skills is collaboration. It involves a joint intellectual effort whereby students work together by themselves, teachers as well, but teachers are more like facilitators, guiding them. Okay, students work in groups, they interact. And one good thing about this is that they work with their peers. For instance, one of the collaborations we have with the decolonize project is that the children work through hours, through blogs, Zoom meeting, WhatsApp, students meet, our students have the opportunity to meet students in other countries. They discuss about the impact of climate change in their communities. And at the end of the day, the children learn from other people from other countries, and they try to reflect on their own country and try to see how they can solve the situation. They synthesize papers. They, like COP24, they were able to, join other students to synthesize a paper which was, published in COP24. And also we have opportunities of NGOs. That's one of our strong points, where NGOs come to train our teachers, our students, train them on advocacy. They train them to know how to speak out through media, through artwork and all that. So our students learn from that aspect. Then the aspect of breed issues, it's like a project that was initiated, in the school. So it helps the students to learn over time. So it's a continuous process. And because of the project, the NATCOM UNESCO adopted it as a flagship program for secondary schools in Nigeria. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Josephine. I think that that's a really a pedagogy that sort of enacts all the skills that are really needed to tackle climate change, in particular collaboration, really at the local level, but also at the international level, as you've described. And I think another important component is really sort of the going out of the school and interacting sort of with the real life, basically outside of the formal system, which is also coming up in a lot of other cases. So I'm moving. Thank you very much, Josephine. I'm moving back to Kavita, and I'm giving you the floor, sort of what empowerment means for you. And sorry about that. I think it was on our side the issue. So sorry about that. But now the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and good evening to everybody. So for me, the authority and what you've written about is the agency and the confidence and courage for students to take their own decisions and opportunities for them to reflect on the decisions. For me, that is what is most important. And how we go about is that when we give any kind of group work, we give some kind of roles to the students, for example, being a researcher or you are the editor, and then asking them to design their own flow of it. So that's what supports them to and gives them the freedom to express themselves. So creating a safe environment also where opinions and perspectives are respected, that is also that supports us for empowerment.
Right, that's great. And can you thank you very much. You've explained that you said a few things already about the pedagogies that you used. Can you explain a bit more about sort of the specific kind of methods and pedagogies that you used that really brought the students to change their mind and their actions?
Exactly. So as Josephine had already mentioned, we also do experiential based learning where you make sure that the students have an experience. So we ensure that every year our students go for a beach cleanup drive. And when they go and explore the beach, they realize that even though Mumbai is surrounded by beaches all around, they don't notice any crabs or tortoise or any kind of animals around the beach. So then they question themselves and ask, why is it that we do not observe any kind of animal on the beach when we are surrounded by beaches everywhere? So this allows them to think about it. And based on that, we then start inquiry-based learning. We ensure that some case studies are brought into the curriculum, or some recent studies are brought into the curriculum. And students are then working on what kind of hypothesis that can be created and do some experimentation, exploration to find a solutions for working on local levels and solutions which can be worked on a global level. So that is why what we have a cutting edge business where our students are actually creating cotton bags out of dupattas and old bed sheets. And we make sure that the students get connected with the community and are able to sell it across. We're also part of the Climate Action Project across the globe, which is a 6 weeks project where we connect with schools across the globe. So that gives us voice to the students that we are not alone, we are connected to the world. And obviously, community involvement is very, very important at every respective step that we have out here.
Great. Thank you very much, Kavita. I think very rich examples and also a very great description of the place-based learning, really what it means to go outside of the school and really interact with real life, with the people that bring about change and in real life, but also with all the issues that are environmental issues that are encountered. I'll move on to Guillaume. You shared two initiatives with us, actually. One is called 10 at 10 for the planet, where students stop for 10 minutes at 10 o'clock to listen to their peer or experts about innovative ideas on sustainable development. And then a second sort of initiative or activity that you shared is a kind of competition between students that is providing them sort of with a fun way of presenting ideas about ecological transitions to each other. So Guillaume, I would also like to ask you the word empowerment, really sort of what does it mean for you, and what did you observe in the students when they were empowered?
Yeah. Hello. Most students are already aware than we think. Often students want to act, but they lack also ideas and time at school. And from the teacher's point of view, I noticed that to follow up the project of the students, you have to trust the students, and you have to value and to recognize the projects within the school community. So students want and they must act, but also students often students carry out our project, the projects from the teachers. But I also think that students should have the opportunity to carry out their own projects to change the world. So this is this is my point of view.
Right. Yeah. No, so thank you very much, Guillaume. I think a very good point about sort of the student-centered approach, really, because they are the ones often most motivated to do something about climate change and have also many ideas, young people, I mean, as we can see all across the world. And when I ask you to talk a little bit about the pedagogies and the pedagogical approaches that you're using, maybe can you describe them a little bit that bring about empowerment?
Yeah. So students need time for the projects. Okay, but I teach physics and chemistry, and you in the audience you teach maybe mathematics and biology, and we have a curriculum. We don't have so many times. So with my colleague, we decided to share the hours with the timetable. We don't change the timetable, and we were inspired with the Friday concept. It comes from Berlin. It means free day. It means every week you have 2, 4, maybe 6 hours per day for the students for the projects. So maybe 1 week the mathematics teacher he won't teach mathematics, but he will be with the students and they are going to organize their own projects. And then next week it will be the English teacher, and this is what we do every week. So they have time to do their project. This is one. Students, they need also ideas. So what we do every week at 10 o'clock Paris time, we make a 10-minute break. Per video conference, we listen others projects in France, in Germany, in Nigeria maybe, and it works. So we are in the classroom and we have a video conference with other teachers or other pupils. So if you want to join us, take 10 at 10 for the planet, and we will share our ideas for project for the planet. And one more point, for me, trusting students means, among other things, that students can make mistakes and that they can try again. And me as teacher, I always want to make more and more with the students, but I think they have to do themselves. And me, I also learn to trust the students.
That's great. No, thank you very much, Guillaume. Very, very impressive examples, and also like some of them are also some activities are also surprisingly simple. Really, like I think the 10 at 10 idea is really great, and really, as you've explained, even allows you to not only connect across the school, but really even internationally and share experiences. So thank you very much for that, Mathilde. I'm moving on to you. You're our invited expert from the Office for Climate Education in Paris, and you're really producing teaching material on climate change. But you were also yourself a teacher, a middle and high school class teacher on biology and geology. So you have that perspective as well. So I would like to ask you as well, sort of empowerment. What does it mean for you?
Thank you very much for the invitation. Actually, for me, empowerment means taking action. And if you want to take action, that means that you have to feel that you are part of the solution, even if you are not responsible for the problem, because the issue here is not to make the students responsible for climate change, but we have to make them think that they can take actions, even if it's only small actions. For younger students, for example, small actions like sorting waste, that may be a good start. And I also think that empowerment, as it has been said before, is intertwined with a sense of belonging to a community. That may be a school community or a city community or a family even, but being part of a community will allow students to feel empowered. And for me, I feel empowered when I feel I can have an impact. That means that my actions matter at a large scale, not only for me, but even for, as I say, for a community. And the last point that I want to make is that empowerment may also come when the people around you acknowledge that you have some kind of expertise on the topic. For example, on climate change, if you have some scientific knowledge on climate change, that means that you may be an expert on this topic. And I think that it makes you empowered.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mathilde. I think that's very great points that you made, and it also I think shows how feeling when we empower students, it also helps them to really get across this feeling of despair that you can feel, in the face of climate change. As soon as you have the feeling that you can actually do something yourself, the mood really immediately changes. In light of this, also to you the question, sort of what kind of concrete pedagogies have you used or do you recommend also for teachers?
So as I mentioned earlier, we have to feel that we are part of the solutions. And in order to feel that, I think there is no better ways than active pedagogies. And at the Office for Climate Education, we do some teacher training and we produce resources, and all of this material is based on inquiry-based pedagogies and on project-based pedagogies for primary and middle school mainly. It means that we start with the local environment of the children and with their questions on their environment. And then the children are encouraged to run experiments and to test their hypothesis. So they are really part of the classroom. It is not only the teacher that leads the session, but actually the students are really part of the lessons. And I also think that the feeling of being empowered starts with the understanding of climate science, but not only science as in physical science or in biology, but also with social science that plays a great role in understanding the climate system, because you can't avoid talking about climate justice, for example, when you talk about climate change. And even if we think that at the OC, knowledge in science are extremely important from primary school to university, we try not to neglect the other science. And all of this makes a solid basis for the students to launch projects in their classroom targeting climate change, for example, adaptation project or raising awareness or mitigation project. One very simple project that we can launch in school is setting up a vegetable garden, for example. And of course, all that I mentioned depends on the level of your class. It's not the same if you have primary school or if you have university students, but what you can still do is starting with a local scale and then expand to the community, for example, and it really makes a student feeling that they are part of this action. And as you mentioned in the question, I think it's really important to acknowledge that the climate change subject may bring fear or hopelessness and what we call eco-anxiety, and that this has to be acknowledged and this has to be taken into account, for example, by doing some discussion groups. And what is also extremely important is to have an interdisciplinary approach, meaning if you are in middle school, for example, you have to involve all the teachers of all the topics.
Great. Okay, great. So thank you very much, Matilda. Very many rich points from you here also, and examples for concrete pedagogies. We'll do a second short round on the panel, and I'll ask my panelists really for short responses, so then we have time for a few questions also from the audience. And in the second round, I would like to focus really on the challenges. You know what when you do climate education at school, what is the greatest challenge that you really encounter? And I'll start with Josephine. If you could give me just a few thoughts or experiences on what you regard as the greatest challenge.
Well, thank you, Alexander. One of the challenges I think I can voice out is good leadership. You know, if you have good leadership, people that support, like in the school, if you have your principal and the school management supporting you because they are aware of climate change and all that, and they want to make a change, I think that's one of the challenges. For me, my experience is that I have good support from my management and some of the board members. Also, some of the cultural and social behaviors. These are, how can you tell somebody that is used to, bush burning, using charcoal as fuel, and then, for cooking, to stop, using them. It's already a culture, it's a tradition that is over there for years. So you find it difficult to, tell a child, this is what you do. When you don't have an alternative for them, it becomes a problem. Then, we have differences in religion, tribes, diversity, and like somebody mentioned, inclusion. When people are not involved, right, or included, it can be a challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josephine, for your take on the challenges issue. Mathilde, I'm going straight back to you. What is the greatest challenge that you would see when empowering students for climate action?
Actually, I think I would think about two challenges mainly. For me, the first one is linked with the fact that climate action is political, and this can be an issue for teachers because they fear that their students may turn into activists, or they fear that they might lose control, or proselytism that is actually banned in French public school. When you teach about climate change, you may feel as a French teacher that you are like trying to make your students being political, even if it's not the case. And that means that we need to develop political awareness based on scientific knowledge. As I mentioned earlier, scientific knowledge is really the strong basis that is needed. And the second problem is linked with the eco-anxiety that I mentioned before, because if you don't take into account this eco-anxiety phenomenon, that may lead to denial and even inaction. So this is not what we want. We want the young people to act, and actually some young people's voices are starting to rise and to protest against government inaction. There has been a study that has been published from the Lancet that shows that the young peoples are feeling really anxious and worried about their future, and that they feel that their government from all around the world aren't taking enough action. So yeah, I think this might be a problem. And these feelings, as I mentioned, has to be acknowledged, and they may serve as a starting point in order to put the environmental problem into perspective and develop trust into scientists' power to find the solutions. It's really important that we don't wait for our students to find solutions on their own, but just to know that they are not alone and they can count on scientists.
Great. No, thank you very much, Mathilde, for these points, also for making the connection between climate education and more sort of civic education, and really what it means to engage in the political sphere, because in the end, a lot of the climate solutions are really political ones. Let me move on to Kavita. Your brief take, Kavita, on the main challenge when you try to empower students for climate action.
Face is that both parents and students see that the topic completely separate from academics, and therefore they're not willing to give it due prominence and importance. I mean, the community feels that it is something that's the concern of the government. It's not something ours. So any project that you take up, for example, the beach cleanup drive that we have, and they realize the impact of the plastics on the marine life, for some time they stopped using plastics, but after some time you see the same use of plastics. So it is not sustainable. It's not going on for a long period of time. Glimpse into the students' work done by the students. So therefore, we don't get the physical and the emotional satisfaction. And sometimes jubilation is also lacking from all ends. So these are the certain concerns that we have and challenges.
Great, thank you very much, Kavita. Very relevant. Guillaume, I'm moving quickly on to you and ask you for the main challenge that you see when teaching for climate action.
I think one of the big challenge is the training of all teachers, me and the other one. in recent years, more and more teachers are talking about climate change. Is it a good news? I'm not sure, because it depends on how you approach it. If it's approached superficially, or if it consists of moralizing, do that or not, do not that. I don't think if the message is effective. So we need experts. Today we are with Mathilde Tricoire. How many Mathilde Tricoire are there in the world? We need it, because there are many teachers in the audience today. Did you make the same experience? Last year I wanted to talk about climate. Oh no, we know, Herr Chevalier, Monsieur Chevalier, it's going to be warmer, Amazonia, blah blah blah. Okay, we know that. So if we repeat, me, the biology teacher and the English teacher, if we repeat all the same thing, superficial, it's going to be boring. So we don't change the things. So climate change, we know it's complex, it's a system. It's also really interesting. So we need to have more training to know better about climate change. Yeah, that's what's
Great. Okay, no, I think a very important point, the teacher training, that really also speaks to the responsibility of governments in furthering climate education. So I move on to now, we have a little bit of time to pick out a few questions from the audience that have come in, and I will direct them to our panelists. And one question that was very much liked, as it were, on the Slido tool was the question: how do we make sure that adults integrate children's voices into climate action? So how do we sort of make sure, to empower the children in a way, that the adults also take on board their views and their actions? So I would really welcome some views from you on that. I don't know, Kavita, can I start with you?
Sure, definitely. So how do we get the adults to respect the students is basically allowing the students to lead the way, because when they know better than us, actually, they're better every way. So if we allow them to lead the way, I'm sure that the outcomes will itself change the mindsets of the adults.
Great. Thank you very much. Very helpful. Guillaume, your thoughts on how to make sure that adults integrate children's perspectives, voices into climate action.
Good question. I think you have to trust the students, and it's easy to say that, but I learn also to trust, so they can make mistake. So you have to give the opportunity. You have to do that. Maybe you say, oh, I lost my time. No, try. They can, and sure, maybe they make mistake, but they can try again, and we have to trust.
That's great. Thank you very much, Guillaume. So I think a lot revolves really in the pedagogical examples that you gave, but also in the statements later on trusting students, really, on really also allowing them to make mistakes, which is of course very difficult sometimes still in the school systems, the way they are organized today still in most parts of the world. Mathilde, I'm moving on to you. Sort of the question, sort of the integration of how to make sure that adults take children seriously, or children's voices seriously, in climate action.
I think when you are a teacher, actually, it's probably because you feel that you have to take your students seriously. But on this topic especially, I will not repeat what has been said, but I totally agree with Kavita and with Guillaume, because it's really, you have to ask your student questions. You have to start with your students' thinking. You have to build your whole lessons around your students, and I think it's really the most important point.
Great, thank you very much, Mathilde. Josephine, moving on to you. Your thoughts. I'm not sure if there's an issue, maybe. if there is, maybe then for the moment I'll move on to the next question, and
Yeah,
that is
I think.
yes,
Okay,
go
sorry.
ahead, Josephine,
Yes,
go
I
ahead.
think the children are the future, and as adults, we're supposed to make learning conducive for them by allowing them to express themselves, to learn from their mistakes. In that way, those uh, actions that they'll take can be able to make impact in their lives. So I think there's room for expression. Let them experiment, let them try it on, hands-on, and then they will succeed.
Great. Thank you very much, Josephine. Again, the important issue of trust, really trusting students and young people. Another important and sort of very much favored question really revolved around the responsibility of governments. So how can we make sure really that, what is the responsibility of governments of all of this, of ministries of education, and how can we make sure that they take climate education seriously? So I'm sure there's not one single answer to it, but I would be curious to hear from you your thoughts on it. Maybe Mathilde, we start with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think what we can also do if we feel that yeah, governments aren't taking sufficient action is also to work at a smaller scale, because I think that many actions can be taken at a lower scale, for example, at the scale of the city or at the scale of the community. And even if you think that your government is not doing enough, maybe you can feel empowered, you can take actions at a smaller scale, and then you will be gaining some trust in political, and I think it's a good start.
Great, thank you, Mathilde. Kavita, the role of governments, the responsibility of governments, and how to make them act.
I would say that we move from I to we. We start collaborating with nearby schools, so because then we become a bigger voice. It's not just one single voice, and make use of media, because social media works very, very well today. So those things will definitely impact.
Great, thank you. Guillaume?
I have no idea with government, and maybe it's a problem sometimes with government. Maybe sometimes you have problem with money. You don't have money for projects. Me, what I know, we all have time. We can manage your time at school. That's that's we can do it. Um, uh, Maybe if you teach physics and chemistry or mathematics or biology, you have time you can manage the hours. So I don't know about government, I don't know about money, but time you can manage what you want to do. If you want time for a project, for action, you can do it.
That's great. Thank you, Guillaume. Josephine, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think government policies, government should develop policies that will favor climate education, even in the classroom. They should encourage climate education. The curriculum also should be designed in such a way that the learning experience for the students will be effective. We have different types of government. Some of us, we have government that are developed and some that are not well developed, that are struggling economically, socially and all that. So we have to look at that and the role that our political leaders will play, so that they make sure that some of this climate impact will not be so strong on the lives of their citizens. For instance, in Nigeria, we know we have a lot of issues, climate issues, but the way the government tackle it is very important, making sure that people, stay in an environment that is safe, clean, and healthy. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Josephine. I think we may have time for maybe one more question, and I'm gonna adapt slightly a question that came up in the tool, and I would like to ask, because it's also a very important question for us when we do climate education, what your thoughts are, what the panelists' thoughts are on if climate change education is enhanced in school, should it be done as a specific subject that is added to the curriculum, or should it be integrated in another way? And if in another way, in which way? So I'd be really curious to hear from you about that. Kavita, any thoughts on that?
Yes, I would feel that it should be integrated with every single subject, because it's not just one isolated, because it is science lens to it, math lens to it, English lens to it. Every subject is connected to climate action. So integration is prominent.
Great, thank you very much. So more like a cross-curricular approach. Mathilde?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You can't make it a specific topic, since it has to be learned in every topic, as I mentioned, in social science. At the OCE, we even made a lesson on greenhouse effect that can be led on in physical education. So even in sports, you may be able to learn climate change. So I think we don't have to put it in a specific topic. We just have to teach climate change in every manner that is possible, even in language. When you teach French, or when you teach English, or you have to. It has to be taken into account in every topic as possible.
Great, thank you very much, Guillaume.
Yeah, I have the same point of view from with Kavita and Mathilde. So yeah.
Okay, great. Josephine?
Same here, integrated into subjects, not as standalone.
Right. Okay, and I'll close, I think, the round with one more question that I have to each of you, a very, very practical and concrete question that can maybe also be a recommendation to all the listeners. When you look at sort of, do you remember one specific resource, one specific material that you found that was particularly helpful for you on climate education? Any concrete example that you have, Kavita?
I have the curriculum of the Climate Action Project, and that is what I use for our classes.
Okay, right. Thank you very much, Guillaume. Any specific recommendations, or you recall a very specific, inspiring material?
Every week we are 10 at 10 for the planet. Everywhere you have so many good ideas. So we share ideas at 10. So I don't know in English. For example, last year we planned culottes. It was I don't know how to describe. Maybe I put it on the chat. So take 10 at 10 for the planet.
Great. Thank you very much, Guillaume. Josephine? I think you're muted, Josephine.
Getting climate ready. That's what we use. UNESCO Happiness Schools uses getting climate ready. And also I use education for sustainable development resources, and all that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Josephine. Mathilde?
Since I am not a teacher anymore, I can only make some recommendation. And the one I will make is to go on the Office for Climate Education website, because we have many resources to teach climate change from primary school to middle school using active pedagogies. We have lesson plans, we have some videos, we have some multimedia animation. So yeah, and all of this is free and available in 4 languages. So yeah. I'm pretty sure you can find something that you might enjoy.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mathilde. And in the last very few minutes that we still have, I would like to invite the audience again to go to the slido.com tool. And we'd be very curious to see another word cloud on what pedagogies empower student action. So what is your take on the pedagogies that empower student action? So you recall, you go again to the Slido tool. So we have active learning. I think that resonates with a lot with many of the statements from the panelists. Hands-on, really going out into the community also. Project-based, experiential, place-based was an important one that came up in many of the examples. Service learning, learner-centered. So as you can see, many different terms here, of course, but a lot revolving really around trusting students, putting students at the center, working in a hands-on way, really going, not only staying sort of in the rigid formal system, but also going out of the school, interacting with the community, encouraging students to inquire. To make mistakes and learn through experience. So I think that's a very nice kind of ending here for the very rich discussion that we've had. And I would really like to thank all the panelists and all that have participated today, all the many participants on the webinar. We come to the end of this first conversation on teaching for climate action. We have more of these. We have more webinars like this, all building on great teacher actions, on great teacher examples. We will discuss more pedagogical issues, for example, also the issues sort of single subject versus cross-curricular, in particular, that question also, and then also the question sort of what support is needed for teachers, as we have seen teachers doing a great job all across the world, but of course much more support is needed to make sure that every teacher across the world can do this kind of work. You can also engage on the platform that we have set up, OECD, Education International and UNESCO together, that I mentioned at the beginning, with all the good examples. And as I said, we also encourage you, if you haven't done so, to send in your own teaching examples on climate change. The next webinar is on the 7th of October. We hope to see you there again. And then on the 20th of October, both at the same time, again, like today, 2 p.m. Paris time. So I think with this, again, with a very warm thanks to the panelists and to our co-organizers, I'll close the meeting and I'll say I'll see you on the 7th of October. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Alexander. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.